And I was like a 10-year-old. I'm just like, yeah, oh. And then my parents turn around and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, and I tried to like run back to my bed. And I was like, I'm sleeping. I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy. I don't know who is getting excited about Undertaker, but it wasn't me.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the 5-Star Jobbers Podcast. I'm Cody.
And I am not John. I am the cameraman.
That's right. So John is on a cruise right now. He left us high and dry to go sail the seven seas to who knows where. But nonetheless, we wish him a lot of fun on his cruise. We hope he has great fun. But this time on the episode, we thought we'd introduce someone who has been with us for a while, since October or a bit before that, sometime around there. You were with us whenever we did our first commentary episode for Hope Championship Wrestling.
Yep.
Over in Thomaston. But we have Justin, our camera guy here, who's going to be filling in for John, but he's going to do a great job. We're going to have a great time, and we're just going to you're going to get to know Justin a little bit. I almost called you John. I'm sorry. I'm used to having him here.
It's all good, man.
I'm sorry. I'll get it right. Okay. But anyway, so
it's okay, Jason.
Before we get started, I want to let you guys know we are on social media. If you haven't followed us yet, go check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We're on all platforms, all streaming platforms as well. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, go check it out. We got more content that's going to be coming up, more live commentary episodes as well. A lot of other things that are going to be on the channel as well. But also, want to let you guys know of some upcoming events that are going to be in the Southeast area. If you're looking to go and take in a professional wrestling show somewhere in the Southeast, check these out. March 16th. Rose City Pro Wrestling at 7 p.m. at the Salvation Army in Thomasville, Georgia. Go check that out and get tickets for that. Go check them out on Facebook as well if you want more information. Also, March 24th, Wrestle South is having their next event at 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon, 3 p.m. at 1117 West Broad Avenue at the Brooks Plaza in Albany, Georgia. Go check it out. I got to see their first event about a month ago, and it was incredible. Go check out Logan Stevens, Xander King, Johnny Romano, and a host of others that are going to be there. It's going to be awesome. Don't miss it. March 24th, Wrestle South.
Why also, so early? 3 p.m.?
I mean, the Sunday crowd, they get done with church.
I get it. We got to go back to work on Monday.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, March 30th, we got two big events going on. Southern Wrestling Tradition at 7 p.m. at the Possum Place in Wausau, Florida.
Wausau!
I was hoping that you did that because we didn't plan this before. John
every
usually
time,
does it, but
yeah.
I hope that you would have catched on to that. But
every time I hear it I listen to it in the car, I'm like, what's up?
But anyway, March 30th, Southern Wrestling Tradition will be in Wausau, Florida at 7 p.m. at the Possum Place. Go check that out. It's going to be a great event. Don't want to miss it. Also happening March 30th, Kraken Pro Wrestling. Their very first event is going to be happening in Tifton, Georgia at the Tiff Theater. Don't miss it. If you want to know more information about it, about how you can be a volunteer or supporting them, reach out to them at Kraken Pro Wrestling 2024 at gmail.com. We also have an announcement to make about Kraken Pro Wrestling, but we'll tell it later in the show. Also, April 20th, DCCW Unbroken will be in McClenny, Florida at the Baker County Fairgrounds. Don't want to miss it. April 20th, DCCW. A lot of events going on and a lot of things happening. If you want more information about it, go check these places out on their Facebook page. Also, reach out to us. And we also want to let you guys know that we also offer commentary, interviews, and video. If you have anything going on for your event and you want commentary for it, or you want interviews, or you want ring announcers or whichever, contact us. You can reach us by the 5starjobbers at gmail.com or reach out to us on social media individually. But a lot of things going on, but I want to get right into introducing Justin. Yeah, I know that's a lot.
Man.
I know, right? That's why
I need a separate Google Calendar just to see when we're going. Like, exactly. I don't even know where we're going. Yeah.
That's why I try and let you know in advance. But anyway, so we want to get right into it and introduce our camera guy here, Justin. And a lot of you may have seen him in person, or you may have seen him on social media with other things we've done. But Justin, we want to kind of introduce him to you guys so that way you get to know who he is, because he is a part of our podcast in a big way. And he helps out with our video tremendously. He does a phenomenal job with it. And we want to just let you guys know who he is and get him introduced to it. Yeah. If you ever see him around the side of the ring somewhere with a GoPro, that's our camera guy. But
Well, I was
he's
gonna say you usually
finally
don't see this. You usually see the back of my head or my butt.
exactly, depending on which side of the ring you're on. But
Yeah.
if you notice, he finally got his 5-star jobber shirt.
Hey,
So now he's
got the
repping us
merch.
at ringside. He'll be repping the 5-star jobber shirt, which we hope to get more shirts. And if you want a 5-star jobber shirt, reach out to us. We'll try and get you
There you
one.
go.
But
Nice. Well, there it is
oh,
right
there you go. But anyway, we wanted to kind of introduce Justin and just talk with him a little bit and let you guys get to know him a little bit. So I didn't really, like I said before, I didn't really have any notes or anything to start this because I didn't really know what we would get into or how we'd start this. But I guess we can just start with talking about how you got into professional wrestling or what, like, when did it start for you?
Well, I've always been a professional wrestler. So I mean, I've been a professional wrestler since I was born. I think I came out of the womb with, oh yeah. No. I am not a professional wrestler. I've pretended to be one since I was little.
As we all have.
Yeah, my we started watching WCW with those TVs that were like, 600 pounds, and like it had the box in there, and
Oh,
you had
yeah.
like one couch, and you all had to sit together and watch that TV. And
Yep.
if you had to move it, you just had to keep it with the house because you couldn't move the TV.
Exactly.
But my favorite was growing up with Sting, and I don't know if you remember, they had those wrestling dolls that are action, I don't like whatever you want to call them, action figures, but you could hit them or squish them, and they would make the sound like oh
Oh, yeah.
ah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I had
It
like
wasn't. It
six of
wasn't
those
Wrestle
Sting.
Buddies, was it? Or
I
maybe
don't
it
know.
was. Yeah,
I
I
don't
know what you're
remember.
talking about. Yeah, the plush
Yeah.
wrestling dolls where you like punch them and they make the
Yeah.
sounds like you're actually hitting them. Yeah, I know
That's
what you're
right.
talking about.
Yeah. So I had like six Sting of those because I would like jump with them off the trampoline and smack them into the trampoline, and they'd shatter, they'd break, and I'd leave them out in the rain. Um, but no, I loved wrestling. I always loved The Undertaker. He's my all-time favorite. Hopefully I get to do my Mount Rushmore because I've got some cool
Oh, of
ones.
course. Like anytime we have
Yeah.
someone on the show,
Um,
we always try to do the Mount Rushmore. So yeah, you'll definitely get an opportunity to do that.
yeah, but we watched WCW, so we watched like Hulk Hogan, and everybody there. And then I kind of like understood what wrestling was once they split, and then WWF started coming up. I remember as a kid, they would watch wrestling, but they wouldn't let me watch the pay-per-view past a certain point because I had to go to bed. And so where we were, my TV or my room, I could crack my door open a little bit, and if I laid perfectly still on the ground,
You can still see it.
I could
Yep.
still watch wrestling. So every time there was WrestleMania or something, I would like, rig my door so I could lay on the ground and watch it. And I
Yep.
remember one night Undertaker was fighting JBL, and they were going at it, and I loved Undertaker, and I was like, yeah, yeah, get him. And so like I knew I had to be quiet, but Taker, they're battling, they're fighting, and then Taker hits a tombstone, and I was like a 10-year-old, I'm just like, yeah, oh. And then my parents turned around and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, and I tried to like run back to my bed, and I was like, I'm sleeping. I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy. I don't know who was getting excited about Undertaker, but it wasn't me. Um, but no, I've watched that, and then I kind of stopped watching wrestling for a little bit because my wife doesn't really like wrestling. I've
Same.
tried, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't really watch it for a while, and then when I got back into wrestling, probably 5, 6 years ago, it was the Shield was just like getting their big, so I'm like, man, like these guys are awesome. And at the time, I was a police officer, so I'm like, ooh, Shield, I wear a Shield. There we go.
There you go.
So,
See the connection
so I
there.
was like obsessed with the Shield, and I was like, these guys are awesome. And then as I started watching wrestling some more, and then I get a notification one day, they're like, oh, the Shield is breaking up. I'm like, well, that's the only reason I'm watching wrestling. I guess I can't watch wrestling anymore. So Shield broke up, and then I stuck with Roman Reigns. And now I think I made a good bet with that one. Watching Roman
Yep.
Reigns, and
Definitely.
I'm not a huge fan of where he is now. I think what they're doing right now is a great storyline, but it just got old after a while. It's like you're like, yeah, man, you finally won it. I was tired of him fighting Brock Lesnar. I was like, if I see another Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar WrestleMania or match, man, like I'm definitely gonna stop watching wrestling. But you guys have really opened my eyes to like the kind of the indie scene, like the behind the scenes stuff, and like the guys who are, you know, have normal day-to-day jobs, and then they get to wrestle once a month or whatever in the training. And you know, and the costumes and all the, it's funny to see the guys, you know, in the ring when you talk to them when you get there. And what was the first one we went to? Was it Hope?
Yeah, Hope Championship Wrestling.
The very first, that was the very first one I ever went to with you guys. And I will say, like, just the wrestling culture is amazing. You know, like you walked in there, and I think I told you, I'm like, every person shook my hand the moment like they came in, and you're like, yeah, that's just what they do, and they're super nice. And I was like, this is so cool. I want to do this all the time. You know, and then Logan Stevens, you know, when I got to do the wrestling thing and take bumps and whatnot, I came home and told my wife, and I was like, I think I want to become a professional. She's like, I'm gonna stop you right there. You're not. You're not.
Yeah, she's like,
you're
before
not
you
doing
even
this.
finish it,
She's
the
like,
answer is no.
no. And I was like, but okay, but Albany's not that far, you know, and I can do. I can do. She's like, no, you're not doing that. I'm like, all right, but no, like you know, and I really I enjoy what we're doing now, and I get to watch it. I enjoy the wrestling because I see the behind the scenes stuff, and you know, it's not just a. I would consider myself more than a casual fan. I'm not like, you know, hardcore like you and Cody are. I can't spout. You guys have knowledge like insane, or you and John. Sorry, I'm looking at you. Yeah,
I was about to say we're
yeah,
gonna get mixed up here throughout the entire
whatever.
episode, but
But
anyway,
you guys can like spout off knowledge. When I listen to you guys on the podcast afterwards, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, you know, and you're gonna be, you know, you're gonna be like, oh, you know, this wrestler from 1975, you know, and he signed with his left hand one day, and he did a cold stone stunner, crazy. And I'm like, how do you remember this stuff? I'm like, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast.
man,
Like,
it just comes from like watching it religiously and just
yeah,
learning the ins and outs of it because I've always been obsessed with it and I've always been a fan of it. And whenever I got bit by the bug, I just like it was I got hooked and I
yeah,
always stayed with it. And it was always something that I looked at as an escape from reality, just
yeah,
so that way I could just be indulged into a world and just forget about the mundane and the things that are going on outside and just to be able to enjoy something like bigger than that
yeah.
in a way.
Well, and you
But
combine that with like pure athleticism, so it's not just a guys in costume, you know, guys and girls in costumes going around, and the storylines are cool, but I'm like, these are actual freakish athletes, you know, like
oh
Undertaker's
yeah,
like what 7 foot tall, you know, and some of these guys even
close
that
to it probably.
yeah, some of these guys that I've met in our stuff, I mean, they're like, you know, they're
Oh yeah,
ginormous.
yeah.
So
And that's the thing I love about it is that everybody's story about how they got into wrestling is so much different, but everybody, but the community of wrestling is just insane of how big it actually is. And a lot of people don't
yeah,
realize it. A lot of people don't see how it can be that big. But you look at WrestleMania's from the beginning till now, they just progressively just gotten bigger crowds, bigger audiences, more viewership, and it's just continuing to grow because that I mean, you have the wrestling community that loves it, but then you also have people that love the entertainment aspect of it. And
right.
so just what like because they've had celebrity guests in wrestling so many times. I mean, you look at Muhammad Ali, he was part of the
Hmm.
first WrestleMania, and then you got people like Drew Carey, who was in the Royal Rumble, Bad
Oh,
Bunny, who
really?
was yeah, Drew Carey was in the Royal Rumble.
What? That's
Yeah,
cool.
if you go
That's
back and
awesome.
watch it, I don't remember the exact year, but
Yeah.
he was
Oh, you
in.
don't? You don't remember the date, the time, the location, and
Not off the
where
top of
you
my
were?
head, I
Oh,
do
okay.
remember that he was in it, surprisingly. But anyway, like he was in it, and then there was a moment when Kane made his entrance, and him and Drew Carey locked eyes, and Drew literally was just like, "Nope," and goes over the
Nah.
top rope and eliminates him.
It's like Pat McAfee did on this last one.
Exactly,
Yeah, he was like, "Nah,
exactly.
I'm good."
But so like you've been a fan of it for a while, and you've kind of been in and out between WCW days, and then going back into when the Shield was in, which is like maybe 2010s, early
It makes
2010s.
me sad to like look at how, you know, how long ago that was, because I was like, oh, Shield's only been like, I'm like, oh, they've been a thing for like 12, 15 years. Oh,
I
okay,
know,
cool,
right?
cool,
Yeah.
cool, 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 cool.
Like I feel like I age myself anytime that say that my first time ever watching a match or watching a pay-per-view was SummerSlam early 2000s. And
Yeah.
it was when that was my first glimpse of watching The Undertaker was when he fought Randy Orton.
Ooh,
Yeah, and
that's yeah.
Cowboy Bob Orton was still managing him and still in his corner during that time. But
So let me ask you, when you had to do pay-per-views, did you have to do the like 100-foot cable from like the phone to the TV or however you bought
Now, we
like
didn't have that.
pay-per-view?
But now, anytime we had a pay per view, I always grabbed like a blank VHS tape from the closet somewhere, and I always put it in. I made sure that I recorded it because I wanted to keep it for myself, and like if I ever wanted to watch it back or watch some of the matches.
Yeah, for our younger viewers, a VHS
Yeah,
is like a
it's this
thing that looks this
giant
big,
thing.
like tape thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about the size of an iPad.
Yeah, but it does nothing, and you have
Yeah,
to use a pencil sometimes to fix it. But no, like so the pay per views. I don't remember what the setup was, but we would have to like plug in our phone line, and then my dad would hold it, and then I would run the cable all the way to the other side of the
yeah,
TV, and then he had to like call in or do something. And I remember there was one time my mom said I couldn't watch wrestle, like I couldn't watch pay per view because I was in trouble or something. Which I mean, whatever. I was in trouble a lot as a kid. So she's like, well, we can't watch it. Well, and my dad's like, well, I want to watch it. And she's like, well, you can watch it, but you can't watch it. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, well, help me do this. Well, then they start, we get it all together. He pays for it, whatever. You have to leave the line on for some reason. You had to lean it on for like 5-10 minutes to,
yeah.
I don't know, let the dial up go.
Right.
And so we're going, and then my mom comes out. She's like, I thought I told you you can't watch it. And I was like, well, Dad's gonna watch it. And she's like, well, all right, none of you are gonna watch it. So then we canceled it. Well, you already paid for it. Well, then my
Mm.
dad didn't not realizing that we had unplugged everything. He goes back, plugs it back in, and he paid for the pay-per-view twice. So he paid like
Oh
$65 twice
no.
and didn't realize it till he got the bill at the end of the month. And my dad was like, well, that was probably the best pay-per-view I've ever watched because I spent $135 on it. So, you know, but now you can
Man.
just watch it on the app. Like once I figured out you
Yeah,
can watch all those shows on the app, like just keeping up with you guys having to watch all these shows, I'm like, I can do it on my iPad and I can just
exactly.
watch shows over and over and over.
But it's crazy to think about how far we've come as far as technology, where you couldn't go back and watch anything. Like
No,
once you watched it, unless you had it on VHS or recorded it some way in some form, because DVR wasn't a thing back then.
nope.
So we had to use VHS. And so if you didn't record it, you were out of luck.
And there was no pausing. It was like, all right, the commercial is
Yeah.
going to be about 90 seconds. So you'd send like one person, all right, you go get the snacks. And then when you're like, it's on, it's
Yeah.
on.
Like it's back on. Come back in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, there was no pausing or rewinding or nothing like that.
no.
But no,
But I will
yeah.
say, like, wrestling is, especially WWE, has been one of those things where, like, every time I think it's gonna not, like, it's gonna die or it's just gonna fall off, like, they've really stepped into the, social media platform, and then I mean, they explode off there. And then COVID, I was like, surely COVID is gonna kill wrestling. And I think you guys have talked about it on the show before,
Yeah.
but, you know, who would have thought, like, yeah, guys, we're still going to wrestle, but we're going to wrestle in front of 1,000 TVs, and we're just going to kind of keep it going. We're just going to figure it out. You're going to a little loosey goosey. We're going to go with it. And
Now let
then,
me ask you this.
okay.
Did you ever attempt to try and get on one of those TVs?
No, but I know you did because you're
I
like,
did.
when I heard that story, literally all I could think about was you like on your computer going, refresh, 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 refresh. That's
Oh
me.
yeah.
It's me. It's me.
Oh yeah. Like literally, I would watch the entire thing. I had my computer right there, and then I had the TV over on the other side, and
Yeah.
I saw myself like up in like the not the cheap seats, but like somewhere up there. But then out of
Yeah.
nowhere, I see my face like right in the middle, like on the front row. I'm like, I made it.
You
But
could feel the sweat coming off the guys.
oh yeah, like I could feel it coming off my computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, because you mentioned during the height of COVID, and that was one of the things that I was worried about because the whole country, like pretty much the whole world shut down at that point, and everybody was
Yeah.
like,
What
well,
do we do
what do
now?
we do now? Like, are they going to still continue, or are they going to like cancel everything? Are we like, is everything going to be paused up until that point? We're just going to have to watch reruns of everything, or they're going to do like
Yeah.
what they usually do with Christmas or New Year's or something like that, where they just pull highlights from the year and just talk
Right.
about like the top moments or anything. But they continued and they pushed on, and they still put out like a pretty good product even during the height of COVID, like with
Yeah.
WWE and AEW, because were it not for the Jackson or the Daly's place in Jacksonville, AEW would have like gone out of business.
Right.
Like they had a
Well,
place.
but then I started seeing like all the roster cuts. So you're like, are they gonna make it? Like they're cutting Samoa Joe, they're cutting, all these people, and you're
Exactly.
like, man, I really enjoyed now seeing those people go full circle and come back because you're like, we had to do budget cuts or however they left, but then they
Right.
come back and like some of them you're like, hey, that guy or that girl, like that's
Yeah.
cool. Other people, I'm like, ugh, really?
Yeah. It's like,
Why did you hire them back?
yeah, exactly. It's like, because that was during the Vince McMahon era, and he didn't really know what he was doing at the time, and still didn't even after the whole situation that he's in now.
Well,
But
now he's in trouble.
yeah, he's in big trouble.
He's in big.
But it's crazy to think that we've adapted so much during that time, and whenever COVID was running rampant, the world of wrestling didn't stop. They
Yeah,
kept it going, and they kept because it gave fans something to enjoy still, even when everything was just nuts.
yeah, which is
But
cool,
yeah,
And it's always funny, like you see what is it, the then now forever? Is
yeah,
that yeah? Like you see that you're like, oh, whatever, but then you're like, but then you actually like you get old enough to see the old stuff, and then you're like, I mean, yeah, that was you're kind of keeping the train going the whole time.
yeah. I mean,
You
it's
know?
crazy to see where we've come from. No, another thing I kind of want to touch base on, if I can remember exactly what we were talking about, but we had kind of you mentioned about how um, you didn't get into the independent stuff until you started going to us or talking
Yeah.
to us about different things and going to these different shows and stuff. What would you say has been your favorite moment so far, like out of the shows? Well, you don't have to say out of the shows we've been to, but just from your interactions, like with things on the independent scene. Like, what would you say has been your favorite thing, or something that you didn't really notice or didn't really understand, or like, was kind of a surprise to you?
Well, my favorite moment was Max Dawson hitting one of my favorite commentators over the back with a chair. And just, I mean, I'm literally like 4 feet from you, and
Oh yeah,
I'm like, oh, this is like a fake chair or something. And
I wish.
I watched them give him the chair, and I'm like, that's a real chair. Cody's
Yeah,
fixing to get hit with a real chair. And I was
yeah.
like, and you got hit, and I was like, oh. And then, I couldn't tell if you were acting or not. And so I was like,
Yeah, there
I
was
was
no
like, are you
acting. Like
okay?
I literally laid there and was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, I'm like, oh no,
And to
no,
make it
no, no,
worse, if you
no.
go back and watch the video, whenever Max puts the chair down underneath my head, he gives me like a big old pat on the back as hard as he can,
Yeah,
right where he
yeah.
hit me with the chair. And I'm just like, "You son of a gun."
Yeah. No,
But no,
that was
yeah, I
awesome.
laid there and just ever so gingerly tried to roll out of the ring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was
And
awesome.
anybody that says that it looked like a fake chair or that it
Dude,
didn't
that was
hurt,
I'm 100
it
I
was a
can
real chair.
100% that was a real chair because
Yeah,
literally it was sitting next to our booth, and then they picked and I sat in that chair when we first got there, and they picked up the chair and handed it to Max Thompson.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you can't
Um,
fake getting hit with a chair. I'm sorry, you
no,
cannot fake that,
you can't fake that. Or no, what is this thing?
and you can't
You can't
teach
teach
that.
that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Man,
Um,
good old Enzo and
no,
Cass.
see, and like I started getting into that. I was like, oh, those guys are cool. And then I'm like, oh, he got in trouble. Never mind. I don't like him no more. Oh, okay. Oh, whatever. Um, but no, I think the biggest thing that hit me again was just everyone was just so, just so chill and nice, especially at Hope. Um, and I get to be, we get to go behind the curtain, and like see these people that they're just people, but it's always cool to see. The coolest part is like we get there early before everybody, and then you see the wrestlers come in, and some of them are like already in the zone and they're ready. Some of them are just like, what's up, brother? They're like, they're just hanging out. And I remember
Yeah,
what's the one in Panama City?
Guardians Legacy.
Guardians. So Guardians was when that was during the SEC and ACC championship games. So
Yeah,
and so I'm talking to these people about football, and then just to see they're like, all right, showtime, and just to see like all right, now it's real, like let's get going.
Yeah.
and especially me because I'm like 15 10 feet from them, and so just that switch of all right, it's game time, and then they just do the they you can tell the people who really perfect their craft and really like put their all into it, and then they're working the crowd, and then they go back, and then the biggest thing that I've seen that I guess like just brings that like brotherhood together is at the end of the show, every single wrestler, no matter if they were the main event or they were the first match, everybody cleans up. Like every single person's out there. Once all the people are gone, every single person's doing something.
Yeah.
Whether it's sweet. Literally, I mean, you see like I forget who it was, but just one of these massive guys that we saw literally just getting a broom and just sweeping the thing, and guys putting up chairs, and helping up. So it's like it's a family. So it's not like a all right, we're just gonna keep having dogs every episode now.
I know, right?
It's gonna be a thing. But anyways, but my point was just that like whole family atmosphere, and I think
Yeah.
it was DCCW was the
Yeah.
one where you got hit with a chair, right?
Yeah.
When we were back there, that's the number one thing you could tell was that they weren't just a collective of people thrown together, you know, looking for a check or looking for a spotlight. It was like-minded people coming together that like to do stuff together. And they're, I forget the lady's name, but she was, one of the things that she said was like, "We're family." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." But then like you see it from start to finish, like, no, they're real family.
Yeah. I think
So
that was Miss Vanessa, which
yeah,
then see, and that's the thing I love about it, and that's the thing I love about when going to independent shows, that a lot of the ones that we've been to and some of the other ones that I've been to as well, like I noticed that a lot, and that's one of the things I love about it is the camaraderie is incredible. And it's like you said, nobody's looking to hog the spotlight, nobody's looking to just collect a paycheck and get out of there. But everybody's there because they love this business and they love putting on a great show for people that pay to see not just great wrestling or just see like a good show overall. They're there to be entertained and they're there
yeah,
to have an experience.
right,
And so if people can just come together just to give them that and just put all their differences aside and just leave all the negativity or things that are going on in their personal lives outside and just be able to focus on just being able to entertain people, then that's where you have like a fantastic show that comes together. But yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love just when we go to different places and to be able to get to interact with people because, like you said, you get to see like the human side of
yeah.
people, and you get to see that these people are just normal, everyday individuals that have jobs, they have lives, they have wives and kids and
Yeah,
responsibilities
that
outside.
was the thing. I think it was Logan Stevens was the first one of those people I met. And like his kids, I'm like literally I'm like, "Oh, you can bring your kids to this?" Because like me growing up wrestling, we still had the undergarment matches. And so we weren't allowed to bring, so
Yep.
like that was back in the day we couldn't, and they were like throwing each, like mom didn't really want me to go type stuff, the old
Right.
school stuff. But now it's like, "Oh, we can bring kids to this. Oh, that's really cool."
Yeah.
But I will say, like my favorite person by far, and it's not even close, is Logan. Um, he's just like the coolest dude, super chill. And I kind of sensed that first time I met him, but then when we went to the Sweat Academy, it was cool him teaching me the moves and stuff, but him just sitting on the corner of the ring and just like, all right, ask me anything, and he wasn't like blowing sunshine up my rear end. He was like, "Yeah, business is hard. It's fun, but you can tell like that like as a man, like he's got it together. Like he has his priorities straight. He's active. He's got his own thing going, and he's just like a good dude. And
Right.
he's a great wrestler, great performer. But like he's probably one of the only ones besides Xander that I've actually had longer conversations with and seen multiple times.
Right.
um, but just literally like my favorite part of the Sweat Academy, other than you getting chopped, of course, but was just literally like I'm just leaning up against the ropes and just listening to Logan just talk for like an hour about like we talked about everything from wrestling specifics to life outside the ring, life in and out of the ring. And I was like, that's you can't you can't teach that, and
Right.
that's just somebody who's had life experiences, and And I could have sat there and listened to him for hours, you
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely. Like whenever I first went over to Sweat Academy and wanted to get back into training because I thought that I was going to get back in and be a professional wrestler and I was
Well,
going to
because he was
pursue
the one
it.
that taught you, right?
Yeah, he was the one that
Yeah.
trained me though at the Sweat Academy, and he still says every time that I come or whenever I see him, like, "There's still a place for you if you want to be a
I'm telling you,
wrestler."
man.
And I
100%.
well, and the thing with that is, and that we talked about this before whenever we had him on the podcast last season, and he made mention of this as well. Like he respects the fact that I have my priorities in line, just because not trying to toot my own horn or anything, because I couldn't commit to the lifestyle of that. I couldn't commit to being on the road 300 days a year, every single weekend, and
Yeah.
just because I mean it'd be hard on me physically and mentally as well because
Yeah.
I don't want to take I don't want to take time away from my wife and take away time from my responsibility as a husband and trying to help build a family at some point as well.
Yeah.
And some people can do it, and I have mad respect for them. Like Logan's been able to do it, and I have nothing but respect for him and other people as well. I just couldn't commit to it, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to him. I didn't want to waste his time with him pouring all this information and all this stuff into me, and then just not being able to do it. It wasn't fair to him, and it wasn't fair to the other people that were there training as well. But I love him to death, and I respect him so much for just giving his knowledge and for just taking the time to work with me during the time that I was there, and still opening his doors to us whenever we want to come and just run the ropes
Oh, yeah.
with them or just talk to some of the guys. Because, gosh, I love being able to go down there. I think it was about a week or so ago. I went and just ran the ropes with them, and just um, me and Xander actually got to work out like a
You
uh,
didn't want to call us and invite the rest of the crew? You're just going to go out and do that solo?
well, I just figured that, I just wanted to check it out. But anyway, so yeah, next time though, I'll invite you guys. But anyway, like me and
Will do.
like I just ran the ropes with the guys there. I got to work with Xander some, and we actually got to work out like a. We tried to work out a 5 minute match with just me and him, and
You and
just
Xander?
try, yeah, me and Xander. And the funny thing about it was we started going through it, and Logan goes, "That lasted about maybe a minute 30 seconds." I'm like, "Wait, what?" But the whole time we were there in the ring, I
Yeah.
was like, "Man, this feels like we're going forever."
Yeah.
Because I
And
was
I
like, I
bet
didn't want to
you're
go
like,
over. Oh yeah, like
yeah,
I was in there just like,
sucking air.
okay, whew. But anyway, but no, I just couldn't commit to the lifestyle of it. But I respect every single one of those guys that's able to do it and able to maintain that lifestyle and still be able to maintain the life outside of that. But I love what we're doing right now. I love
Yeah.
being able to do this podcast. I love that we're starting to do commentary for these different places. And it's something that I never thought that I would be a part of. Like I always wanted to be a part of the wrestling business in some way. I thought it was going to be wrestling. I thought I was going to
Yeah.
be a wrestler, and I thought that was how I was going to get involved in it. But
Well, because you're built like one. I mean,
well,
you've got the body type for it. You're big, tall. You
well,
get this going on.
a lot of people have that going on. I'm not
I
the
know,
only
but
one.
but you combine it with all the other stuff, then that makes this like
But no,
that's
see,
a that's a wrestling
I
beard.
love doing this. I love being
Yeah.
able to just talk about it. I love being able to
Yeah.
just go to these different shows and to just soak in more knowledge and to be able to talk to some of these guys because I never in a million years thought that I'd be able to meet legends in this
Yeah.
business. Like whenever I got to meet Nikita Koloff,
Yeah, I
it
know. I was like,
absolutely
oh,
blew my mind. I'm like, this guy is a legend. Like the
yeah.
matches that he and Dusty Rhodes had, the Magnum TA, like, everything. Like this is a legend. And then of course sitting right next to the Powers of Pain at Solid Rock. I was just like, because I saw there was a table sitting right next to us. And I'm thinking, okay, is there going to be a merch table here, or is this going to be something? And then I see Warlord and Barbarian walk in, and I'm like, don't tell me they're sitting right next to us. And sure enough, they plop down and they sit right next to us, and me and Barbarian or Warlord start striking up conversation like, in between matches, and I'm just like, this is surreal to me.
You're like
Like
fangirling.
oh yeah, like I tried not to mark out too big, but I'm sitting next to two legendary individuals who were probably one of the great, like most powerful tag teams during the 80s and like 70s. And so being able to see these guys and being able to have these opportunities that we've had is what I love about just being involved with just doing this. So I'm not looking to be a wrestler. I'm not looking to get into wrestling. I'm just happy and content with where I am and what we're doing right here because we have a lot of fun with this.
We do, and I think like when you first when you first started doing it, I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's cool. And then you're like, hey, do you want to hold the camera? And I was like, sure, I'll hold the camera. And then I went to it and I was like, I want to do this every time. This is so much fun
So that's
because
the funny thing about it, because seeing your reaction to it
yeah,
after the whole event and everything, when you
it
came up
was
to me and you
after
were
Hope because
like,
I was like, because I don't know if you remember the first match that I recorded, I was like way back here, and then you guys were like, no, like get up in there. I was like,
yeah,
is
you
that
can get up
okay?
close to it.
I
Yeah.
was like, I'm like, can I touch him? And you're like, well, don't touch him. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll get up close though, but just like like getting like there and like afterwards, you're like, because you feel like a part of it, like
Yeah.
you feel like you're not just a fan, sitting on like, oh, that's cool. Like I literally get to get up like right next to people, and then
Yeah.
especially, who was that guy that was messing with me? Remember he threw the chair or he was doing something and he kept chasing me.
I think it was the match with Cosmo Martinez and Suave.
Yeah,
Because, yeah, they
they're
kept
sitting there
joining.
messing with me, and I'm having to walk backwards, and they're like running, they're like chasing each other, and they at one point they threw a chair, and I was like, well, surely they understand that I'm not, and then I'm just like, whoop, and there goes the chair straight past my head, and I'm like, and then who is the other guy that was a heel?
I remember it was J Rod, because I remember him. It was him and Jacob Thrasher, and they were in a match,
Yeah,
and he
and
literally grabs him by
he
the. Because
kept
it's on
grabbing the
our.
camera, and he's like, "Look, you're famous," and he's like
Yeah,
grabbing the
exactly.
camera
Because
out of my hand, and I'm like,
yeah,
"Well,
I
okay, I
think it was one
guess
of our first shorts that we put out on YouTube, and it's the one where he grabs him and is like, "You see what I'm doing, you boy?
you're
I'm
famous."
making you famous on TV."
Yeah. And then he came out at the very end and scared the bejesus out of me because I had my back to the main entrance, and I think it was Koloff, wasn't it
Yeah,
Alexander?
yeah, it was Koloff and Peterbilt, the main
Yeah,
event.
and I'm going, and I'm like, I'm videotaping, and I just feel like this rush of wind go past me, and I was like, "What?" And the Peterbilt just boom, and I'm like, "Whoa," and I'm like, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like sweating because I'm like, I'm running around doing all this stuff, and then
Yeah.
like, it was funny. I felt like doing that stuff after every match. You guys were like way off in the corner, and after every match, I felt like a kid who just got to play, do something fun, and then looking back at mom and dad, I'm like, "Did you see what I did?
Like,
That was so
check
cool."
that
And you guys are
out.
like, "Yeah, good job." That's
Oh
awesome,
man, but no, man,
But
that was a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that you were able to come and do that. And now that you got the bug,
I
because it was
know.
fun. Like I said, it was fun seeing your reaction after we finished everything. Because I look at you and like, "But how did you enjoy it?" And you're like, "Dude,
It was
that was
awesome.
so much fun." Because you had the same reaction that Brody had whenever he came and
Yeah,
filled in for you at Solid Rock. Because he was kind of the same way. He's like, "Oh, this is cool." And then after the show's over, he was just like, "That was awesome."
yeah,
But no, man, like we're so thankful that you're with us and helping us with the video, because you do a phenomenal job with it, and we're just glad to have you a part of this whole process that we're doing here.
yeah. No, I think it's always funny being on the other side of it. I actually was really excited for tonight, and my wife was like, "Why are you so giddy just to talk to Cody on Zoom?" And I was like, I'm usually literally right behind the camera. I was like, no one
Yeah,
ever, and I'm usually the one that has to like shut my mouth and be quiet and try
right,
not to laugh because you guys are like, you guys are cracking me up, and I'm usually
exactly.
over here like, mm, mm.
Which we may have to have you
So
behind the camera all the time whenever we record, just to add that
yeah,
extra level of comedy.
yeah. But no, I think it's fun, and I think the last where did we go last time?
DCCW.
Yeah, I think on the way either on the way there or the way back, and we just talked for like an hour about like what this could be, and what it could become, and and it seems to like like it seems like a huge goal, but I'm like it could be like you don't realize like how big like you said at the beginning, like how big the wrestling community is. I'm like you bring some of these guys together, like this could be a real huge
It could be huge.
huge. But yeah, but no, and I appreciate you, you guys let me hang out with y'all, and I already hang out with you anyway, so
Exactly. Yeah. Man, we
yeah.
enjoy it.
I will say, I promise to knock and wait for an answer if I come late to the recording next time, because I don't you were talking to somebody, and I knocked on the door
Oh
because I
yeah, it
thought we
was
had
when we had
started
Hunter
yet.
Hendricks on there. Yeah,
We had
and you
Hunter
came
Hendricks
in.
on, and I knock on the office door, and I was like housekeeping, and open the door, and you're like,
Yeah, we're
all
like,
right, we're gonna have to
we're in the middle
re-record
of a
that.
recording here.
I was like, whoops. So I'll promise
Um,
to wait for an answer before I come in the office next time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All
Um,
right. So I usually do this with John, but we're going to see how you respond to it. You ready for some reviews?
let's do it.
All right. So we're going to get into our high spots and botches. So now I remember you talking to me back and forth about how you like watched it so much and like you spent at least what half an hour or so or more trying to watch it
Oh no, I spent like all Sunday.
all Sunday.
I watched all 5 or 6 of the things in a row. Like I literally what was it called? I like what's it called when you watch shows? Binge. I binge
Yeah,
watched like
binge watch.
wrestling for like 4 hours, and afterwards I was like, I feel like a wrestler. I'm like, yeah, I want to go
Well, one of the things
more.
that yeah, well, one of the things that we do is that we try and do our high spots and botches and just see things that we liked or what we didn't like throughout the week. But I had quite a few high spots, but my botch was kind of in relation to one of my high spots. But
Yeah,
one of my biggest ones was, of course, the SmackDown promo with The Rock, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Cody Rhodes. I
yeah,
mean, just absolute fire spat from both ends of the sides in this match or this matchup that's going to happen. The
yeah.
Rock getting slapped at the end by
That
Cody
was
Rhodes.
yeah,
Man, I that was the slap heard around the world.
yeah. Well, let me ask, did it feel a little clunky though when they were telling each other to like shut your mouth? But it was like to me it felt like they were like waiting for one of them like a cue, like whichever one said shut your mouth first. I was like, well, that didn't really make sense. He was already done talking,
Right.
like I'm like, okay,
I think it was
but
The
no, like
Rock. Well, Cody was about to give the answer to the challenge, but Rock cut him off and said, "You shut your mouth."
yeah,
So yeah, it was a lot of like, "You shut your mouth." No, you shut your
you
mouth.
shut your mouth. Yeah,
But overall, I mean, this promo was really great. But my botch is in relation to this that they cut the program right after he slapped him.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
you just got a huge pop from The Rock getting slapped by Cody Rhodes, which I get it.
yeah,
Maybe it was by intelligent design, and they just like, you know what, we'll just let them simmer on this and just leave them hanging. But I'm
yeah,
just like, no, I want to see his reaction. Like, did they go at it? Did they
yeah.
fight? What happened? Like, did Roman have to pull Rock away? Like,
Well,
I
he
wanted
kind
to
of
see
did. Like
more.
he kind of was like, he kind of did the it's cool,
Right.
and then it's
Like,
over. You're like,
yeah, but that's my high spot in botch essentially. But then of course my other high spot was Okada making his All Elite debut on Wednesday night on Dynamite. Which I mean, I know I know you're probably not because so he
woo,
yeah, he's like Okada, yay! But
yeah,
no, that all goes into I don't know how much you watched the AEW this week, but Okada is probably the most like well-known and popular wrestlers out of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all those guys with All Elite are like good friends. They've wrestled the world together, and so I think with him being in All Elite Wrestling, this is going to be kind of the turning point because I don't know. Did you watch any of AEW this week or catch any of it?
yeah. That was unfortunately that was like the last one I watched, and by that point I was like, ugh.
I got
I
you.
was like,
Yeah.
I'm watching. Like I kept skipping through, and then I would skip too far.
I got you.
Yeah,
But yeah, so like with AEW, like having Okada now being a part of the whole shtick with the Young Bucks as EVPs, it's definitely adding more to their heel
yeah.
route that they're taking. This like kind of like the like what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like the uh
Shtick.
like, yeah, well not but like the slimy like slime ball corporate
Oh,
guys. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, kind of like the Eric Bischoff or Vince McMahon esque
yeah.
way that he would like throw his weight around because he is in a position of power.
Right.
But no, I mean, so far from what AEW is doing right now, as far as trying to create storylines, it's getting better, but they've still got a ways to go.
Yeah, yeah, and then I get most of my news from you guys as far as AEW, and then they're like I have to like I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it, and I'm not gonna think about what John said, and then I watched it, and I'm like, John's 100% right.
Yeah. I
John's
mean, yeah,
100%
John's
right.
100% right about everything that
Yep.
AEW's got going on right now. But
Yep.
sorry, what do you got for your high spots and botches?
Well, something you didn't mention with that promo was happened on Raw, and then the crowd reacted to it on SmackDown. And he called him when Cody was trying to come up with a new nickname for The Rock, and he was like Diarrhea Dwayne.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's funny, and you're like, oh, that's silly. And then on SmackDown, the whole crowd was going like diarrhea, diarrhea. And because I just watched
Yep.
it, I was like, oh, they're doing the thing. And then
Yep.
like you could tell The Rock was like, wow,
It's like, really?
that was great. Yeah. So that was my high spot, just seeing like I don't know, like diarrhea Dwayne. I'm like, you couldn't have come up with something better, but then the entire crowd was like, diarrhea. It
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
no, like anything silly or ridiculous that you put in front of wrestling fans,
oh,
they're
they're
gonna
gonna,
hold on
yeah,
to it and they're gonna make it
100%.
last a long, long time.
Yeah. My botch was Dom versus Gunther. Is it
Yeah,
Gunther or Gunther?
yeah, Gunther.
Gunther. Uh, it's like overkill. Like, why in the world would you put this little scrawny little dude next to this man who's just beating people senseless? And
You
and I
want to know
didn't even
why?
realize I had looked over. I wasn't paying attention, and I looked back, and I'm like, why are you guys fighting? Like, what's going on with that?
You want to know why?
Why?
It's because people want to see Dominic get the crap
Oh
beat out of
yeah.
him. Like
Oh, it was.
he,
It was. I mean, he just. I mean, like
oh yeah, like
this.
people hate Dominic. So he's the most hated heel in professional wrestling. Well, one of the most hated heels in professional wrestling, and he does a great job at
Oh,
getting
he
the
leaned
crowd
in,
to absolutely hate him. And so this entire match, everybody was just loving when Gunther would chop the crap out of him because that's what he
and
does. Like his
and he
chops
he
are
he hit him
deadly.
one time, and Dom literally spun in a circle.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, knowing what I know about wrestling, like I'm like, oh, maybe he kind of jumped into that one. But I went back and watched it and did it in slow motion, and he hit him so hard that he does
yeah,
a full flip. I'm like,
exactly.
oh, he's just smacking the tar out of him.
Yep.
So that was like I guess what you call a botch. Like I didn't understand
I
why this was happening.
I got you.
Uh,
Which I mean, yeah, I get it because I mean, you got two supposed heels. I mean, you got Dominic and then Gunther, who's supposed to be heel,
yeah,
but then he ends up coming out, everybody loving him for it, and everybody loves
yeah,
that he's beating the crap out of Dominic. But yeah, I get it because I mean, it's one of those booking things that me and John talk about where it's like, why would you put two heels against each other unless it's
yeah.
like, because I mean, it doesn't really make sense to have two bad guys going up against each other.
Well, and then I don't know if you saw they're doing the wrestling the video game numbers, like what their
Yeah,
actual power level would be. And I felt like I was watching Dragon Ball Z in the late 90s again. I was like, his power level is 95. But it's like you got Gunther's like 95, and then you got
right.
Dom, it's like 64. And you're
Yeah,
like, okay, this is just all right, cool.
yeah, exactly.
And then the
Which
other
which makes
one
me
is,
think we should do a review of the 2K game because I just got it yesterday.
oh yeah, I was gonna play that with you, but somebody didn't want me to come over.
Well, the house is not in a good shape right now, and we want the best to be presented for you.
Yeah, whatever. Uh,
We have to lay out the
the
golden carpet and everything. We have to have the fanfare and all that, and we just didn't have it ready.
I'll accept your apology. And then my other one is I think you guys have talked about it. But like Nia Jackson, Becky. Like I love Becky. Becky's one of my favorite female wrestlers right now. But I'm like, Nia looks like the female Rikishi. And she's just so, and I know John's talked about like, her, just the way that she looks. But I'm like, it just looked clunky. And there
Yeah,
was like miscue. I mean, obviously I don't know what was supposed to happen, but like it just looked like there was miscues and like she would grab for Becky and like it'd be like a complete miss, where
yeah.
they'd
I mean,
throw a
and
kick and be
that's every
like,
Nia Jax match. Like she's clunky as all get out. Like she's
but I remember when like her and Becky and those other like when they were in Bailey, like she seemed good, like she was rolling with it, but like just ever since she came back or she came back into the scene, it's just like she's just like, yeah, I'm big, and then that's it. You're like,
yeah,
okay, well, what else can you do? You're like, well,
exactly
I'm big. You're like,
right.
well, okay, well, that's good.
And then now that she's got this run right now, and then eventually she'll be resorts to be just another jobber and taking the fall for someone else. And yeah, I mean, every match that she's in, that she's very clunky with how she works.
I will say her doing the Rikishi, the butt thing, that
The
that
stank
gave me
face.
that gave me PTSD from watching Rikishi used to do that to grown men as a kid. And I'm like, He just stuck his butt in that guy's face and rubbed it all up in there. That's
Yep.
disgusting.
Yep.
And they loved it. Like, then that's his thing. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
But like, I've always wondered though, like as Rikishi, like you go up to those guys afterwards or like beforehand, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and they're like, you better like wipe your butt, or something. Like, you
I'm sure there's been
wash up.
instances where he's like, nope, not going to do it.
I'm not
Or
gonna do that.
I'd have to go back and watch, but I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm sure that he's probably farted on someone at some point. I wouldn't put it past him.
I 100% would do that if I was him. I'd just be like, hey, you remember the other day you bumped me, in the locker room or whatever, you stole my sandwich?
Yeah. Like, this is your receipt.
It's your receipt. Yeah. That's another thing that I enjoy learning. Like I consider myself a pretty intelligent guy, but then like all the names and stuff that you guys use for wrestling, I'm like, you're like, what? And like you and John will be talking, and then especially if we're in a group of wrestlers, they'll be like, is there any Marks outside? And I was like, I don't. There might be a guy named Mark. I didn't see. I think that guy's name was Tim, but I don't know. And I'm like, but then I'm like, I'm trying to like quietly tell you like, I don't know what that means.
It's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, and then John just goes over there, and John's just like, oh, it means, this and this and this. And I'm like, well, thank you for saying that really loudly so everyone in this locker room knows that I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Hey, that's all right. It's all part of the learning process.
Yeah. And then the jobbers thing, and I was like, oh, jobbers, that sounds cool. And it took me like, I think we filmed probably 5 or 6 episodes. And then you guys actually explained what 5-star jobbers meant. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome.
Oh, man.
But just learning like the different, I don't know what you call it, but just the different words.
Yeah, just the different terms and different things.
Terms, yeah. Yeah. Terms and conditions.
Yeah, exactly. Do you accept?
I don't read it. I just scroll down and hit accept.
I think everybody does that at this point.
So everyone does. Yeah.
Well, guys, that's our episode for this week. Well, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for watching on YouTube. Go and check us out. Like I said, we're on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. This is going to be up, and more content's coming up as well. But going back to what I was saying about Kraken Pro Wrestling, I wanted to make an announcement that we're going to have a special guest next week on the podcast on our YouTube channel and on all of our streaming platforms that's going to make an announcement about Kraken Pro Wrestling. So you don't want to miss it. Going to check it out next week whenever it comes available. But thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, keep 5 stars.